Hello, friends and colleagues. Welcome back to the Think Catalyst podcast. My name is Ricardo Ferraris, and I'm here with my business partner, Vivek Kuchibotla. And we have another interesting and fun episode for you today. Vivek, how are you this afternoon?
I'm very well. I've been away for a while.
That's right.
We haven't recorded a podcast in a bit, so I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As many of you know, we have a firm called Think Catalyst, and we do a lot of work around agency client relationships. Vivek has been a marketer in the past. He has worked at agencies in the past and has been consulting over the last 20 plus years in terms of presentation skills, a lot of development, etc. And I have been on the agency side for most of my career. And then 3, 4 years ago, we set up Think Catalyst to help clients and agencies work better. One of the things that Vivek and I are exposed to significantly is to new business presentations. And we want to talk a little bit about some of the things that can make or break actually a new business presentation this afternoon. So, Vivek, you want to open up the topic a little bit more?
Yeah, this is something I've been going on and on and on and on about for the last 20 years or so. It has to do with delivery presentation skills. So today we're going to talk about the five typical body language mistakes that undercut new business presentations. Um, And, and experts will tell you that 90% of all communication is nonverbal. And in new business, given that most agencies, whether they like to admit it or not, serve up similar services in a similar way, body language and delivery makes a huge difference in the outcome.
Right.
So we want to talk about that, but just one more thing, because we're going to talk about body language, and body language makes an appearance whether you are aware of it or not. So while you're talking, your body's talking, and it might be saying something that you don't want it to say.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that in this podcast. We're going to highlight the typical body language mistakes that happen. And we've created five characters, five personas that make an appearance in presentations. And we're gonna call them out and we're gonna talk about them.
Don Draper, Mad Men, they're all there, right?
All of these people fit into some of those personas. They absolutely do. And you know what? If we do this properly, the people who are listening to us will be very easily be able to think back on a presentation and identify these characters because they've seen these characters
Sure.
in action
And they can
all too
make
often.
the whole and that makes the whole difference in terms of potentially having a successful meeting or not. Right? I mean, you can
Uh,
have you and I have discussed so much about content and credentials, etc. But if you don't know how to deliver it properly, or have the right casting around how it's presented, um, could be problematic, right?
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely, absolutely.
So we've developed how many? We've developed six, actually.
Well, we
Six,
have five plus a bonus.
five plus a bonus, right? We have
Five
a
plus a
number
bonus.
of characterizations, descriptions of who these characters could be, right? I'm going to start with the first one, Vivek.
Okay. All right. This one is probably the most stereotypical character in advertising.
Hmm.
This is the yes man, the backslapper, right? Uh, this is very often the managing director or the president of the agency, the guy who sets the stage before his team comes up to perform, right? So he's the ringmaster, as it were. Um, how do you identify a yes man backslapper? He's overly friendly.
Yeah.
He's the one who absolutely laughs loudest at client jokes, right? He just bursts out laughing, right? And he's generally smarmy. He's just he's over the top in these things. Um,
Classic account guy, by the way. Classic account guys
Classic.
are classic account guys are like that, and then they rise obviously to become managing directors or CEO of agencies, but they just want to make things work. And sometimes they undermine the agency to make sure that things work, right?
Absolutely.
Of
And
all things.
it
Throw
just
the
goes to
creatives under the
show
bus.
it just goes to show how old you and I are that we're talking about account guys,
Right.
because nowadays
And gals.
the account management profession is skews to women to an incredible degree, no?
Right, right,
Uh,
right.
but anyhow, archetypes. The classic account guy, um, early Pete Campbell and Mad Men, smarmy as all hell. And for the older people in the audience, the classic is Larry Tate of Bewitched, Hechizada. He was the he was the world's best used car salesman.
Right,
He was
right,
just
right.
smarmy as all hell.
As a client, you would almost feel like, you could see him like rubbing his hands when you came into the agencies to see what they can sell you, whatever, you know.
It's like walking into a car dealer,
Right,
basically.
right.
But the backslapper, he's trying to be friendly. He's trying very hard to win the business, but because he is so eager to please, the message that he sends is that he will say yes to anything,
Yeah,
and he can very easily be bullied.
right,
And the bullying message is not only for the marketing director, but it's for the brand manager, it's for everyone in the room. This guy can be bullied. And that's not a good message to send.
we'll talk about it in the summary, but I mean, there is a character and there's a personality for every client as well. Some clients would prefer to have an agency that's much more of a yes man agency or yes woman agency, and that's that. But there's a hay uno para todos, as they say in Latin America. There's one for everyone. So I'll go with number two, the professor. Often this is the strategic planner, the one who has much more of, he's a deep thinker, deep thoughts, big words, technical jargon, comes across with, as someone who knows their stuff. Sometimes a bullshitter, right? Sometimes like the one who just can't be reached because he's way above there. But usually listened to, followed by, not always right, but you know, certainly the smart beans in the meeting.
The guy who does this a lot. This posture is the classic thinker posture is very typical.
Right.
I like to call this guy the professor as well, because I think one of the issues that this guy faces is that he thinks he's in a classroom. And in a classroom, the students have to pay attention because the professor gives them grades. In a business environment, he's actually selling. He's not giving a lesson. So he has to engage people. And if he doesn't engage them, if he just bores them, they'll switch off.
Right.
And the agency will not win the business.
Right.
So there's a mind shift involved here. He thinks he's a professor, but he's not in a situation. He's not in a professorial situation.
Right.
Um, that's always the danger with the professor.
I've had some really smart planners leading agencies with me, but they could easily hijack the agency, by the way. Sort of run it, run it to where, you would feel as a managing director like, oh no, this is not going to look good in a while. So, but that's not to criticize strategic planners or anything like that. I'm just saying they have they are, the big brains, and sometimes they run off with things, just like creatives do, by the way. Sometimes I've seen creatives present campaigns like that I hadn't seen the night before or the day before or the week before. And that is, that's a big no-no in the business.
But just to be clear, we're not
No,
criticizing managing directors. We're not criticizing planners.
right,
What we're saying is that sometimes when the planner speaks, this other character appears and he appears unknowingly.
right,
That's the whole issue.
right,
That's what we're talking about in this podcast.
right,
It's this character appearing without being under control. I'll
right.
put it like, yeah.
Well, that
Uh,
tees us up for the third one, which is an
oh,
interesting one as well.
this guy's my favorite. This lady has tortured me for many, many hours during presentations. I like to call this person the blissfully unaware sadist.
Right,
Why sadist? Because he's torturing the audience. He's often the media person. He can be a tech person. Um, but he will show himself by using extremely complicated charts and going over them in excruciating detail.
oh yeah,
He's obsessive about explaining every last bit of every single chart. Or if there's tools to talk about, he will just go on and on and on about the tool. And he's unaware, he's not capable of reading the audience
right.
and seeing that the audience just checked out and just wants it to stop. He keeps on going. That's where the sadism comes in. He just keeps on going.
Often they don't really fully capture what the business issue or the business problem is up front, or it hasn't been defined. They go straight into, I'm not saying it's not useful, but potentially valuable data, but not presented in a way that, meets the objective and what is it that we really want to do. So, and it's an overload of data, see what sticks to the wall and go from there.
This guy undercuts the flow of the presentation. He slows
Mm,
it down. He
mm,
gets he loses the audience. And then often, because he's gone on and on and on, the agency is forced to cut back or speed through other more important segments of the presentation. So it throws the whole pacing of the presentation off.
hmm
And that's terrible. That's a recipe for disaster. It never works.
I'll take this next one. Reminds me a lot of the creatives that I've worked with, but the wild and crazy ones, the ones who dress in black and who say things that are way over the top sometimes. And then, you ask yourself, but they go on and they obviously have a story to tell, right? They can get away with it. They're exempt from, rules of appearance and decorum, and that would apply to other players in the room. But you know, kind of nuts sometimes. And this is when, you remind your client that as a managing director or an account director, you're the head of the kindergarten, making sure that everything works the way it's supposed to work. But anyways, clients love these people too, because they do come up with some, wonderful ideas. They're just the way they present it, the way they bring it forward, can sometimes just throw you off a little bit.
Well, two little comments on this.
Mm,
The first one is that the wild and crazy guy has a very interesting reaction on the yes man backslapper
Hmm.
because whenever he says something that's completely over the top, you can see the yes man terrified. And then if the prospect reacts well,
Right,
the yes man laughs the loudest,
right.
right? Because everything turned out okay at the end, but he's terrified. He's completely terrified of that. And the other thing about the wild and crazy guy is that the wilder and crazier and over the top he is, the higher requirement of him being really good.
Yeah,
If you're really crazy, you better be really good
yeah.
because I'm not going to deal with the bullshit unless the
Right,
work is outstanding.
right,
So
right.
it's a bit of a trade-off there.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes they come across like that to get the client to think, well, if he is like that, it's got to be good, you know. So there
Well,
you go.
reminiscing on my days at Leo Burnett, there's a story. It's a part of old Leo Burnett folklore that Rick Fisdale, who was a young creative when Leo, the man, Leo Burnett, was running the agency, when Rick Fisdale joined the agency, he was a hippie, complete full-blown hippie,
Mm.
and he happened to be in the elevator with Leo Burnett and someone else, a senior account guy. And apparently, old man Leo looked over at him, looked him up and down, then turned around to the account guy and said, "He better be good." Right? Uh, and that kind of captures the whole wild and crazy guy
Sure,
ethos. You better be good.
sure, sure.
Yeah. So, you want to do the next one?
Now I'll do the next one. You could do the bonus. So
Okay.
the next one is the lady or man, whoever it is, deer in the headlights, as we say. These are usually people who are more junior, don't really have a complete sense of the situation. They're just there to present the presentation, trying to just get it done and over and with. Don't really have complete feel for how the meeting is going to go, and aren't probably ready to have a deeper conversation when the presentation's over about the pitch. You just want to get it over and done with, right? Uh, mm, I'm not going to say which department because it could be it could be anyone from any department actually. But usually they're just in a hurry to get it over and done with. I've done my job and let's move on.
We call them the deer in the headlight person in English. In Spanish, the phrase would be "Trágame tierra." Please make this finish, make it go away. I want to
Right.
be done with it.
You just want to move on.
And the thing about this that's that's counterproductive is that given that it is now accepted that the senior people in the pitch will disappear as soon as the pitch is over, the junior people are actually the people who are expected to run the account. And if the junior person is a deer in the headlights, if he gives a deer in the headlights performance, then the agency's screwed. They have no chance of winning because
Right.
never see the more senior people. The junior people are no good. I'm not giving my business to this
Right.
agency.
Right.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. That one is a
It's a
tough one.
tough one. There's a
That
lot of the deer in the headlights going on right now, unfortunately.
I would say that is when that happens, the chances of success are significantly lower. You want to have a an engaging, productive debate with your prospect about their business, about what unique solution you're bringing as an agency to their business. It just can't be, you know, 35, 40 slides in 15 minutes. and you're doing these, three a minute, and let's just get over and done with, and thank you very much. So difícil,
That
kind of hard.
it's really hard. It's really
Yeah.
hard. So let me go with the last one, and
Yeah.
and this I see that you let me do this because this is the really politically incorrect one, but it has to be said. It has to be said. But we're gonna say it nicely.
But we say
So this,
things, Vivek, it's one of the things that people like about our podcast. We say things that normally a lot of people don't speak about. And it's important to say these things because there is usually some learning. We've gotten some great feedback. So
well,
sin
this
pelo en la
one,
lengua,
people.
as they say in Latin America, sin pelo en la lengua, without, no filters. Go ahead.
Um, this one is controversial, but it has to be said. And
Mm,
we're going to call this character, this persona, the grooming challenged individual.
mm.
And this person can work in any department except creative because the creatives are kind of expected to be grooming challenged anyhow. But this person typically will have very poor personal grooming habits. So uh, the hair won't be brushed, the clothes will be wrinkled, the shirt will be wrinkled, they'll be wearing wildly inappropriate shoes, they'll be displaying tattoos or piercings. Um, the hairstyles nowadays and the hair colors are also contribute to this, right? And again, everyone is free to be whatever they want to be, but when you're pitching a piece of business, you have to understand what the expectations of your client are. So if you're pitching a bank and you walk in with a piercing and blue hair, your chances are not good for winning the business. You'll just come across as being unaware and disrespectful.
And Vivek and I saw this very early in the life of Think Catalyst in one of our first pitches. And the client turned around to us after the meeting and said, "Where did this person came from?" I remember that very vividly. And
You know,
he was not the wild and crazy guy. He was not expected to be the wild and crazy guy, but the person didn't have his hair combed. I think his shirt was buttoned wrongly. It just it just
you
it
know,
was a disaster.
when the grooming challenge individual shows up, even if he's saying smart things,
Mm,
no one's listening to the smart things because everyone's focused on the hair or the shirt or
mm,
some grooming detail. So
mm.
again, um, you don't want to come across as unaware. You don't want to come across as disrespectful. You don't want to come across as entitled. It will not help you win the business. So please, please, please um, consider, consider. Don't let the grooming challenge individual appear. It's a hard conversation to have with some people,
I know.
but you may as well have it before the pitch and improve your chances of winning.
I've had to have that conversation in the past. So let me just say, sort of as a summary, look, we're not here to criticize. We're just saying that you know, the agency always has a cast of characters, and there's a bit of everything in the agency. I think that the important thing here, though, Vivek, is when you go to present, and especially in new business pitches, you've got your content, you want to get your casting right, you really want to understand who your client is, and you know, n not guess your way through it, but sort of anticipate a little bit how you're going to put together the team that is going to be delivering to the client, right? I remember in my early days of work when I had a bank client, and no one walked into the bank without a tie. Okay. So it was a mandatory. We knew that that was going to be that way. In any case, the point is here, you want to put together the right casting. You want to make sure that they understand very well who the audience is, and then, sort of tweak it. You might want to have a little bit of the wild and crazy guy. You might want to have a little bit of the professor, but overall, you want to understand also how to run that show in a way that's going to be productive for the agency.
Well, the point here is you don't want these characters to appear unknowingly,
Right.
right? If it'll help you in the business to throw up a professor, go right ahead, but don't do it unknowingly. That's the message here. Um, Anyhow, just quickly to recap the personas. There's the yes man, the backslapper, overly friendly, the professor, overly intellectual, the blissfully unaware sadist, obsessive with unimportant detail, the wild and crazy guy. There's not much to say about him. The deer in the headlights. He conveys absolute. There is you cannot. He does not convey credibility. And the final one is the grooming challenged individual who can be in any department and can appear at any time during the presentation, and you just never want him there. All of these people are going to be all of these personas are going to be communicating to the client so they can either help you win the business or they can ensure that you lose it. It's completely in the agency's hands um, to control these characters.
There you go. Well, I'll just say that Vivek and I love doing these podcasts and love giving out this advice. But if you, agency, want to go deeper into some of these and you need some help in terms of your new business prospecting, presentations, storytelling, which is so important, along with your credentials, you can give us a call. You can write to us, and we'd be happy to have a conversation about how we can help you. Um, it's a lot of fun. We get great feedback from all of these podcasts. Hopefully it was useful and makes you think a little bit more about how you approach your next presentation. Vivek?
Agreed, agreed. I've been saying this for decades now, so I'll never get tired of saying it. This is one of the most important things you can do to increase your new business success rate. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Thank you again.
Take care.